Well, I'm thrilled to be here with everyone this morning, and everyone showed up on time. Many people here, it's their first visit to BART headquarters, and we're particularly proud because we actually own this building, which is really wonderful. We have an asset for our BART community.
Family.
Okay, so now we erase all that, and we're ready to go. Good morning. 50 years ago, it felt like BART was the center of the engineering and transit universe. For the first time, trains were carrying passengers under the bay between Oakland and San Francisco. We might take it for granted now, but it was mind-blowing back in the 70s when I was a sophomore at Cal Berkeley and had grown up in New York City riding the system and just seeing the beginnings of what BART would become. It is still, in many ways, just ask any adult who's turned to a child they're traveling with who has said, you know, we're 135 feet underwater right now. The Transbay Tube isn't just a cool stretch of submerged train tracks. It's the backbone of Bay Area public transit. It is my pleasure to introduce our outstanding BART General Manager, who is also an engineer, Bob Powers, who has an important announcement about the tube.
Good morning. My name is Bob Powers, and I am the BART General Manager. And it's a pleasure to be here this morning to announce that BART has completed the seismic retrofit of the Transbay Tube. The Transbay Tube is BART's #1 asset, and I would argue one of the critical assets in all of the Bay Area. The Transbay Tube now has a stronger steel lining. It has a more powerful and robust pumping system that will protect itself against even stronger earthquakes. The type of earthquake that is projected to occur only once in 1,000 years. Again, that's an earthquake that is projected to occur only once in 1,000 years. That is what the BART tube is now seismically retrofitted against. With the retrofit of the Transbay Tube, brings to a close BART's 2-decade-long earthquake safety program. Not only did BART retrofit the Transbay Tube, we retrofitted over 74 miles of track, 34 stations, and additional critical infrastructure. With this retrofit and with the Transbay Tube itself, this is a testament to the tremendous value of investing in public infrastructure. Again, thank you, and I am pleased to announce that we have completed BART's Earthquake Safety Retrofit Program.
Thank you, Bob. You can read much more about the retrofit of the tube and the earthquake safety program in a wonderful website article written by our very talented and creative Michelle Robinson. Michelle is a principal marketing representative on the BART communications team. Michelle also tells the story of the man I'd like to bring over now, Ken Myers. Ken retired from BART a few years back after many years of service, but his first job was to clean out the tube before passenger service began. Ken is going to help announce the winner of our Transbay Tube Trivia Contest, who was chosen at random.
Thank you, President Duffy. The winner of the Transbay Tube Trivia Contest is William Lee. He traveled here from the Antioch station with his son to accept his prize in person.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you want to say a bit about?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's
just a
lucky
little
that
something.
we went. I went this like it's more for me. It's more. It's not for the gift card. It's more like the experience here.
Well, we were very impressed to have a team and a very young contributor, because the future of BART is really you. And
Yeah.
So it's wonderful to see you in a t-shirt. I understand this is your only BART t-shirt, so we should probably try and get a couple more so you have some rotation in your outfit. But it's really a wonderful thing, and our system is going to be your system as you continue to grow. So thank you very much. I don't know, do you want to take any questions, Bob, or?
So unfortunately, our general manager needs to leave for a meeting, but obviously, Mr. Lee and his son, they're available here. And of course, President Dufty is never a stranger to the media. So thank you.
Great.
Are you doing one-on-ones, or should we just?
You can do one-on-ones, but we'll do them, let's say, in a separate location, okay? Thank you.
Cool.
All right, thanks. Thanks, everybody.
Everybody good?
Yeah, we'll do it one-on-one then, I guess. Is that what we'll do? Okay.
Them. Those videos are now on our YouTube page, which you can click to from our homepage or just go to YouTube. But really, for many years, people didn't know really what it looked like inside the tube. So very exciting that at the 50th anniversary, we are showing a glimpse finally of what it's like down there. And Anna actually got to go and film the video down there, so I'm sure she can answer questions. And then Kenny's available to even talk. What is it like to work in the Transbay tube?
Ken
So
says he's ready to come back.
let's go. Yeah.
Yeah, he says he misses it. so-
Nice.
I'm going to do that.
Can we just ask a question now, or?
We can do that, sure, but let's break up into
Why don't we just
small
have her,
groups.
can we?
Why?
Yeah.
Everybody's all set?
That's all right. It's fine. Yeah, let's just,
have
we'll
you
do it here.
here
Yeah, it's
where
fine.
we
We'll
can
just
all
do
hear
it,
the
let's just do it here. It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah,
Stand right here, make sure we get that mic this time.
okay.
Improvisational theater.
Maybe, I don't know.
An
Yes.
engineering question. If it was built with I guess a tunnel boring machine originally, right?
No. that's
No?
on our-
Can you explain how it was originally built and how it's different now?
That's on our website, but it was built in sections that were submerged.
Ah,
And so what's different now is that we've put steel plates in the interior and also increased the pumping capacity.
so the steel plates are in the inside.
Correct. So it's got a steel liner, and then there's concrete on the outside. It's in a bed of gravel, but we put additional steel plates to create even more resiliency. And it has seismic joints that will allow it to move with an earthquake so that it doesn't actually, break in sections.
So, Mr., is it Ken Meyer, or what's your name?
Ken Myers,
Ken Myers, M-E-Y-E-R-S?
yes,
So you were here 50-plus years ago when this was being installed, correct?
50.
50. So, at the time, I'm just trying to get what the
No
mindset
problem.
was in terms of the technology. Were there any doubts about whether this was going to work? It obviously has worked, but at the time, did you have doubts about putting this tube under, so deep in the water, and about it leaking and breaking and that?
Yeah, I think generally there was a seismic question.
Yeah.
That was big. But the way it was explained, it would be in 300-foot sections in cut and covered basically, or trenched, and then dropped down covered. And then there'd be able to be flexibility to withstand, I think, an 8-point earthquake at that time. So there was concern, but then there was a lot of great engineering and marketing, and people got comfortable with it. Although,
Can I have you step
Yes.
on the microphone, please?
Oh.
Thank you.
I think people also, at that time, I remember it was a big deal because the monorail in Disneyland was kind of like the model. And I think people thought they were actually underwater when they looked out the windows, and we experienced some funny things down there when we were down there. But so, people had all kinds of strange thoughts about this tube underwater. So.
When you say funny things, what
Can't
do you
leave
mean?
us hanging.
Yeah, what funny things did you?
Well, if you would go like on the submarine ride in Disneyland, and you looked out the window, you would see the plant life and everything else. But when I was in the tube, there was 2 sections: the bottom gallery and the top, the upper gallery, and then the tubes were on both sides. So when you go up into the upper gallery, we were working up there, and you look down through either side, you could see the bores. And when the system began to run and trains were coming through, sometimes they'd stop where the louvers are, where you can look down, but also the people inside the train can look up. And we would see kids looking out the windows. And one time, I was 20, out of theater, and I wanted to be in drama.
Here
I went
we
to
are.
college for that. It didn't work. It did work because I ended up with Bart. So I looked down through those louvers and I saw those faces, 2 or 3 kids I just never forgot. I looked at my friend, so I stuck my face through the louvers and made a fish look like this. And they all of a sudden scrambled and they're pointing it. So I really think they didn't know what was going on outside that train. So that was a lot of fun. We were young and dumb.
Did you have to inspect the tube after Loma Prieta? Were you?
Well, throughout my career, I've moved from the janitorial cleaning, hosing down this tube to get it ready for opening. We did the top and the bottom. But then when I went to the buildings department, I became a journeyman buildings, masonry, plumbing, carpentry, got into all that. Well, then we were tasked with maintaining the doors, all the hardware, up and down, and then any of the physical plant structure. We didn't do the rails, but we took care of anything that was facilities related. So, yeah, there was a big emphasis on maintenance and had some rehab issues. We had to redo some things in the hardware and stuff like that.
So here you are, a 20-year-old guy.
Oh.
You have this task to clean up for the last time this truly remarkable wonder of engineering. You're a 20-year-old guy. What did you think then? And 50 years later, what do you think now?
Amazing question. When I was tasked with going down there, I had a foreman that told me to throw some hoses over my shoulders with another person and come follow him. So he took us all the way down 5 stories under. And we walked in, and I was 20, and I had no idea what this was. And then I realized, you got to be kidding me. I didn't want to be down there. So we went all the way down the tube, and he explained how the tubes goes in slopes. And we had to go to the top of each slope and wash back to the pumps, the walls, and the floor, clean it out. So we spent a month down there, this other gentleman, myself, and sometimes he'd take a break, and I don't know where he went. There was nowhere to go. So he would just disappear. And so I found myself down there alone a lot. And it was dark, and it was dirty, and a lot of noises, a lot of echoes, sounds, doors slamming. I didn't know what was going on down there, and it was just an experience firsthand. Then one time I was up in the upper gallery, and I heard this screeching, squealing noise of a train. Sounded like a train coming, but there were sparks flying into the gallery from the track, doors open. And I thought, what is that? Nobody ever told me anything. They just said, go wash the tube. So it comes down, it's a rail grinder. It's grinding the tracks, and the sparks are flying and I'm up looking down with my head to see what's coming at me. So there's a lot of crazy stuff that went on, being 20, not being trained or told everything. And a lot of people back then were new too, especially in the buildings department. We didn't do a lot of things with the track people. So it was quite an experience. It was quite a time down there.
Now, here's the second part of that question. 50 years later, we know that BART has significant problems brought on by the pandemic. Rolling like crazy just before the pandemic, massive numbers of people on that stuff. When BART started out, it was by no means a big hit. It took time to build up. Do you have an opinion of what you think the future of BART is now post-pandemic as it rebuilds?
I'm excited. Well, I watch a lot of YouTube on the BART system, and I was excited to find out that we're planning another tube because I think it's vital. I think at some point everything's going to be revised in San Francisco. Businesses will ramp back up. And we went from 460,000 people a day to, I think, 100,000 because of the pandemic. That was devastating. And it's going to take time to bring that back. But I think BART's a big key to that because transportation's just, I mean, when it went down during the earthquake, it devastated almost the economy. So when I heard they were going to build this other tube, I think 50 years later, and the way they do things today, the way I watch them build things on YouTube, I love construction on YouTube. It's just amazing. It's more technical. It's more, scientific. It's more engineering marvel to me. So 50 years later, pretty awesome. I think heading towards the new ways of doing things. I think it's going to be great.
Whatever society turns out to be in this post-pandemic period, we may have people living in the inner cities rather than a lot of business. Whatever it turns out to be, do you think BART is well positioned to handle that growth and to, in fact, assist and enhance that growth?
Well, I think if it returns to that 460,000 people a day traveling all over the Bay Area. Now, I started with 32 stations. I ended with 48 stations as my responsibility. And the population increase on BART is just exponential. So, yeah, I think, I don't think it can handle it right now if it comes back on that level. And that's why I'm excited to, I heard, wow, they're actually going to plan another
But
bill.
well positioned to move forward?
Yeah.
And that project is a Link 21, where we've been working, we've been going out, meeting with elected officials in community groups and looking at what the potential is for having a second crossing. And particularly it is important potentially for Caltrain and Capitol Corridor, and it's you know, equally important. I'd like to offer just one anecdote as a BART director about how significant this project was. And I can remember when I took office in 2017, our first agenda had a renewal for an insurance contract, and it was with Lloyd's of London. And I looked at it and I thought, well, why aren't we using a domestic carrier? Why aren't we, you know, hiring a firm here in the U.S.? And I asked about it, and the answer was that when the Transbay tube was being built, no one else would touch insuring it but Lloyd's of London. And I think that just lets you know that, you know, some people felt we were tilting against windmills with this project. And I have loyally voted for Lloyd's of London to continue to be our insurer because they were there at the beginning.
Bevan, do you think that BART is uniquely positioned to whatever society turns out to be, and we don't know what it is, we have no idea where it's gonna go, what with, you know, the economy and with technology and all that. Is BART positioned to grow and enhance itself in the future and become as vital as it was pre-pandemic?
Even in the difficult days of late, as we focus in on the fact that we are facing a fiscal cliff and we do have to look for a different financial model, I am really hopeful about it. The response that we've gotten from riders, we only have new trains that we're, you know, working with here, and the new fare gates. The pin I'm wearing is about the implementation of the first bank of new fare gates. And I can tell you, I represent some of the toughest stations in the district. You know, we have Civic Center that we've now shifted over to the new fare gates, 24th and Mission, and then 16th and Mission. I really do. I believe that BART has persevered through many difficult times, and I think that we're too important to fail. It was difficult for us when we very much appreciate what President Biden did, providing resources to us, but then when the Congress shifted from Democratic to Republican, that support wasn't there. I certainly am a believer in hopefully future President Kamala Harris, someone who grew up in the Bay Area, and I think that we can look hopefully at a future in which we look at a different financial model. I mean, back in the day, people dressed like I do. I look around when I am on the train and not many people have ties on or jackets or things of that sort. It's a very different world from the, you know, mostly white men with briefcases and hats that rode the system from the East Bay into the downtown core. But we also are seeing increases in ridership in stations that were not as strong. And working class people who are struggling to stay in the Bay Area, BART is the right financial deal. When you factor in parking and gasoline and wear and tear and just sitting in traffic, we are the right answer. And so I feel over time that will come about. And I'm just really excited to have Ken here. I love that he's a thespian, so he was a great speaker. But you know, the people that have made this system over the past 50 years, each of them have a story to tell, and we're helping to put that forward because we will have to go to the voters likely for a funding measure in 2026.
Can you talk about the
Sure.
second tunnel? What are the ports?
Well, there are a lot of things to determine about the second tunnel because we have, you know, heavy rail, which you see in Caltrain and Capitol Corridor, and so we could have a one-seat ride potentially with a second crossing that would come from San Jose and go all the way to Sacramento. So I think that that is a great possibility. Right now, it's a difficult time to look at a project that is a multi-billion-dollar project. I
That
mean,
would be underneath the bed.
yes, it would be. Yes. But we are looking at both Would it be BART? Would it be heavy rail? Those are questions that I think are pending right now, but a lot of work has been done to talk about it. And I think, I think about my son who just started college this month, and it's his generations and future generations that are going to reside and do that. And as I step off the BART board after 8 wonderful wild ride years, I feel very strongly that our future is going to be bright, and I look forward as a private citizen to being involved in hopefully a citizen movement to stabilize BART's financing long term. I mean, and I think most people know that we started a system where 70% of our operations were funded by passenger revenue. We had the highest fare box recovery of any system in the Bay Area and around much of the country. And with the loss of ridership due to work from home and other concerns, it's just been very difficult. So we're looking at a very different model. When you look at a lot of the transit systems, you look at VTA, you look at Muni, they are subvented money from government that we don't get because we're a multi-county agency. And so that has kind of worked against us right now.
A couple of number questions. If you could just take a step to your right and
Sure.
have your table on that T, if we're gonna continue to have questions.
Certainly.
So do you know the magnitude to which the tunnel is now rated to withstand? And also how much the retrofit cost?
Jim?
So, the retrofit,
That little T right there.
the overall Transbay Tube retrofit was involved in the overall earthquake safety program, which was about $1.5 trillion. And it's not a matter of magnitude, it's a matter of probability in terms of years. And so it's a 1,000-year event. As you know, the earthquake science has shifted a little bit. They don't use the Richter scale as much anymore. They have different metrics, but it is a extremely powerful earthquake that the Transbay Tube and the rest of the system, the original system that's been retrofitted, is now able to withstand.
More powerful than Loma, right?
Less frequent probability than Loma Prieta.
Did you say $1 trillion with a T?
Correct.
That's huge.
Well, let me double check that.
Entire
That is the entire
54
earth,
miles?
right, the earthquake safety program, which began in 2004 and which just finished. So
Oh, not the one that started in
2019
2019.
is the Transbay Tube retrofit. We don't have a separate line item for that I can give you a cost estimate.
That's for the whole BART system.
It's billion. I want to correct.
Billion, thank you, Michelle. Not a math major.
Does this change anything in terms, after we have a quake, even a small quake, and you guys do those track inspections afterwards, does this retrofit change any of that, or is this still gonna happen?
The retrofit doesn't change any of the protocols that we go through in terms of our response to earthquakes. We still make sure that the system is safe before we carry passengers. What it does do, though, is make sure that we're able to withstand quakes better.
And you said, I think kind of off camera, what exactly was the Transbay retrofit? It was extra steel plates and bolts?
The Transbay Tube retrofit was all internal. It involved putting steel plates within the interior of the tube that increases the strength. And it also upgraded the pumping system so that it is a greater capacity and more robust. So one of the predictions is that if there were some sort of earthquake that was very, very powerful, there could be small cracks that could create some minor flooding, and so this pumping is designed to remove that flooding.
I'm just gonna throw out a scenario here. If we have this 1 in a 1,000-year earthquake event, and there are people on a train in the tube, would you stop that train? Would you clear the train out? Would you seal the tube? Like, can anyone explain what might happen in that scenario?
Worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario, trains are running through the tube, and this happens.
So we have a detailed set of emergency plans, and the emergency plans always call for trains to stop at the nearest station unless they're in the tube or the Berkeley Hills Tunnel. Then they will proceed out of that and go to the nearest station.
So you don't stop unless there's an obstruction?
We would not stop the train if it's in the Berkeley Hills Tunnel or the Transbay Tube. It would go to the nearest station. If it's outside on the other parts of the system, then it would stop until it's safe to do so.
and then go to the nearest
Seal
station.
the tube if you needed to?
That is speculation that I would not want to go into.
One other question, and it has to deal with, the stations themselves. You've retrofitted them, they're standing, but I've always looked at them compared to what I saw in Japan as kind of sterile places. Where in Japan you go, they have fish markets, they have places to have soup, it's just like a little mall each station. Is this something that might help Bart, be more involved in each community that it's in, and therefore maybe become a more friendly kind of thing rather than the safe but sterile place that it is?
Well, I think throughout our 50 stations, they're all in different neighborhoods, different communities. We're part of that fabric, but absolutely we want to try to create the sort of placemaking that you have at, say, Fruitvale Station, where people can just take a train ride and maybe go for lunch and do some shopping. Rockridge Station is another example. That's absolutely part of our aspiration for BART, but it's not a BART-only thing that we can make happen. So we work with the local communities, and a big part of it has been creating housing near BART stations, and the Transit-Oriented Development Program is a big part of that as well.
Is there a good amount of land at these stations to develop affordable housing like you're doing in Fruitvale?
We do have a ongoing transit-oriented development program, and we're working right now. We have a detailed list on our website, and you can see how we're trying to work with the communities to bring in housing and also other types of development, businesses, and even hotels at some of our stations.
And 8,000 affordable, 8,000 units of housing with 35% being affordable.
That's right. A big component of it is 35% affordable housing, 8,000 units.
Is that just Fruitvale?
No,
No, that's
the
through the
system.
entire system.
Okay, thank you.
With this retrofit being completed now, is BART expected to be immediately operable or operable 15 minutes after a major earthquake?
I think it all depends on the earthquake itself, so it's hard to speculate, but so we have two standards, life safety and operability. And so life safety is making sure that stations are upgraded to the point where they are safer for people, and then the higher standard is operability, getting to that point where we can operate the trains more quickly. And I'd have to go back through the details to find out exactly which stations have been brought up to each standard.
What about the advanced signaling that the BART is conducting and the Transbay tube and other part of the network?
I'm not sure I understand your
Like
question.
more advanced signaling.
Oh, so the more trains through the tube?
Yeah.
That's the core capacity program?
Yeah.
And so we're involved in a couple of different facets there. One is the biggest is the upgrade of the train control system to a communications-based train control system, which will allow us to add more trains through the tube. And then, of course, we've got our new rail cars that we're bringing on. We've just started to bring on the core capacity rail cars. And so, yes, that is part of the overall solution to getting back to a more higher capacity system when the ridership does return. But we're proceeding on that on pace, and we hope to have the new train control system in within the next 10 years or so.
Hopefully soon.
Thanks, sir.
And I think it's like 10 o'clock, and I promised to get the assignment desks that you guys would be out of here, but we can spend more time with you. Jim Allison, A-L-L-I-S-O-N. I'm a BART spokesperson.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
N-E-Y-E-R-S? Yes. Thank you. When did you retire? When did you retire?
March 2021.
Let's get you together with the meeting again, so we can get some more stuff.
Sit there, it's a big area. I'm not quite sure. Maybe have some more